out with Olympus Reptiles. And today, this is one of those days where I'm like, hey, let's just film this. And we didn't really plan to film anything, but we just kind of had to film something. So we're using the old camera we had here. We didn't get to use our new one today, but so if you notice a little bit difference in audio and whatnot, it's because I don't have a microphone on. And we're using our Samsung we used before we got the really cool high-end movie camera. What we're going to do today, okay, this is going to be a feed video. You hear me? It is going to be a feed video. So if this is going to bother you, I want to give you fair warning. There's a reason we're doing it. We're going to show you exactly how we feed our babies to get them started. So these are all going to be very young babies that we're going to feed. We have kind of a different system than a lot of people for doing this. You may, I don't know, you may or may not actually see a snake strike. You may or may not actually see a snake coil. So I'm just letting you know now, you may see that. We don't know what's going to happen because we're filming it, but be warned, it's a possibility. Don't know what exactly is going to happen. So all we do is we have these Chinese food boxes, and that is not saying anything, they literally are Chinese food boxes. We get them from suppliers, like from restaurant suppliers. We keep them at our shop. They make great containers for rats. That is not trying to say anything, implicate anything. We got some different size rodents that we have just brought home today in these boxes, like hopper mice, some rat pinkies, and some ASF hoppers. So what we do is we'll start on these. These are the little bit bigger babies, a lot of them. And I know this one here will probably eat a rat pinky. So we just take the rat pinky, we're just going to lay it in there and just close it up, okay? We're just going to lay it in there and close it up. This guy's a little smaller, so I'm going to give him a mouse hopper. And again, we're just going to lay it in there, close it up. And we'll kind of work our way right down the line on that, okay? And the reason we'll do that is because, and I like to get them on rats, because if I can get them feeding on rats, they're going to make better snakes for my customers because they're already eating rats. So again, we're just going to drop the rats right in there, close it up. Now, the reason why we can do this, and don't mind the noises from upstairs, we got some kids in the house today, and if you got kids, you know, kids make noise when they're having fun, right? It's a good thing. So, the reason I like to do it this way is we'll come back and we'll check later on all of these and see if they ate. And now, you probably heard 100,000 times, don't ever leave food in there with your snake. You know, all these bad things can happen, right? And in some ways, that's true. But these cannot possibly hurt a snake, okay? They have no teeth, their eyes aren't open, they can't do anything. They'll also be fine overnight if they don't get eaten, and I can feed them to something else. So you just kind of put them in there. We just kind of go through the whole rack like this. You know, I know this does not make for the most interesting of feed videos. You know, everybody hears feed video and they're wanting to see action, action, action. Well, there was a little bit of action, but you're not always going to get that when you do it this style. But what you do get is a very, very high rate of success in your rodents, or not in your rodents, in your snakes feeding, which is what I want. I want these guys to feed, right? And I am much more interested in that than I am in anything else. So, and that's kind of it. So what we'll do is we'll go through an entire rack that way, and then while that's going on, you know, I'll come over here and I'll start feeding these. And we can see we mark them, so I know which ones have eaten. That's what the yellow marks are. It also tells me what they've eaten. So yellow means they've eaten mice. When they get a blue mark, I know they're ready to start taking rats or have taken a rat. I've already put all my rats in there. So these guys are all getting mice. And two, when you're doing this, is an excellent time to kind of check some of your water dishes. And you can always just top them off, you know, as needed. And this is another reason why we close it. See that snake right there, Kurt? He is all worlds focused on us. If we close him up, he can focus on the rodent that's in there instead. And that rodent will eventually start crawling around. And when it does, he'll find it, and he'll likely eat it. So again, this is kind of how we do things. Alright, well, we finish this up, and then we'll go by and we'll check the other rack and see if any of them have taken it. But while I'm going through and dropping some of these in here, Kurt, do you have any questions?
How many times do you try to feed one of these babies? And if they don't eat, what do you do after that?
You know what? I like to always give at least 3 times, but it varies. It varies based on size. So if I have a very, very small hatchling, I may not give it 3 tries to eat on its own. Okay? I may only give it like 1. But I do like to give it 3 if I can. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those type of things. And then if they don't eat, you know, you kind of monitor weight, and eventually you're going to have to start going to assist feeding. So, I mean, there's just no way around that eventually. And usually every year I'll have a few that I have to assist feed, but not too many. So far this year, we haven't had to assist feed anybody, and most of our snakes, our babies that have shed, have already eaten. So, you know, this year's going pretty good. A little more water for that one on that. But you'll always get a stubborn one or two, you know, that you have to kind of let them realize what it is. Another thing I do too is if they're not taking like the mouse hoppers and things, then I'll pretty quickly switch over and start using African soft furs specifically for those. You know, someone will get them anyway. And the reason is that is a natural prey item. So you may have a snake that isn't recognizing that mouse or that rat as food, but when you put an African soft fur in there, the smell's right, everything's right, and they will. You'll get a better chance of them actually feed. So we do that sometimes. Like one in there? Yeah. Like the one in this one? Not yet. That's where we're at. So we kind of do, you know, vary up our food. Like speaking of an African soft fur, that's one. Whoop. Had 2. Whoops. So we do kind of vary up our food that way, you know. And then I like to get them on mice or rats if I can, because not everybody has the availability of African soft furs. And I know that. So, you know, that's kind of where that's at.
What's your goal for these snakes before you would ship them to customers?
My goal is always a minimum of 3 meals, okay, and also 80 grams. So sometimes you'll hit one goal faster than the other. That's always what we're looking for. That just makes sure they're big enough to survive shipping. And also, if they stress out a little bit in shipping and they go off food for a few weeks, it's not going to be a big deal. You know, and you also know you're sending a well-established baby. If it's had 3 meals, it's had a bowel movement, it's had all those things, you know the system is working, and you know you're going to send what's most likely a healthy product, which is what we're really after all the time, is a healthy product. Okay, I have 3 more babies in here.
So that's 3 meals on their own?
On their own. Assist feeding doesn't count. So I want them to start well for, you know, whoever gets them. So it's important for me that the product I send out is a well-started, well-feeding product. So anyway, so now what we do, we got rid of all them, right? We just kind of go back through and we check. I won't make you look at every rack, but you can see that one's hovering over it. Don't think we got a feed yet, but we probably will. And that one's feeding. That one hasn't found it yet, but likely will. Some of them is our first rat. That one's feeding. That one's feeding. Feeding. Hadn't found it yet. And that'll be its first rat. Feeding. Not yet. Feeding. Feeding. You know, and you can see they're all doing really good. So, that one's feeding. That's good. This one hasn't found it yet. Put that over there. And what I'll do too is I'll go through all these in the morning. In the morning, I'll make sure the rodent's still not in there. and then I'll give it its, its X, its designation if it ate or not. So, and in here, most of these probably aren't yet because they're young ones. They're still a little shy about it. That one, it's underneath them. I just like to go through and check throughout feed day. Kind of see how it's going. And it's not uncommon, too, that you'll spend a few hours in your snake room, and you'll leave and there'll still be rodents in here. That's actually pretty normal, but then you come in the morning, or the next day when you get a chance, and you'll find that most of them are gone. So it usually works pretty well. So, this is kind of our system that we developed to do this. Nobody said this is how you do it to us. People are like, oh, you just try to feed them. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But for us, this works the best. You already got it. You already got it. And you already got it. So, it's kind of how we do things. All right, any questions?
No.
No questions? Jen, any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, that's all we got, guys, and we'll see you next week.